The war years, Magda Goebbels, and the tragedy at the end. She remained completely loyal to the movement, to the Nazi movement, until her last day. When the war broke out, her son, first from the first marriage, Harald Quandt, she had a son, the oldest one from the marriage with Günther Quandt, Harald Quandt. He served as a pilot in the Luftwaffe and fought on the front. Magda, meanwhile, embodied the role of the patriotic mother on the home front. Yes, she trained also like a propaganda style, like a Red Cross nurse, worked for the Telefunken electronics company, like to show that everybody is helping in wartime. And like her colleagues, went to work by bus, like she showed, I'm one of you workers. She also hosted the wives of foreign dignitaries, supported soldiers, and comforted war widows. So she fulfilled a little bit the function of the first first lady, yes, of the first lady. Both Magda and Joseph Goebbels enjoyed personal privilege and social prestige thanks to their closeness, to their personal closeness to Hitler and Hitler's circle, and they remained publicly loyal to him until the end. However, in private conversation, we can imagine there are no certain proofs about that, but we can see that Magna expresses some doubts, especially after the situation when the Eastern Front collapsed. On November 9 in 1942, while listening to one of Hitler's speeches among friends, she suddenly switched off the radio and exclaimed, my God, what a nonsense. By 1944, she was reportedly saying of Hitler, he no longer listens to reason. He only believes those who tell him what he wants to hear. Yeah, when asked about her husband's anti Semitism, she once replied, the Führer wants it that way, and Joseph must obey. Yeah, there are some statements, and they are not saying much, I can say. In literature, we see these statements reported, but in reality, these are it is not proven in context. So you cannot say that she was critical about Adolf Hitler. I have the impression more that all over she was convinced, and she was part of the regime, and she was absolutely loyal. So this is maybe statements here and there, but in the end she was completely loyal. And acts of possible compassion. According to a later account, Magda may have intervened to help certain people. Also, this is reported. Felix Franks, a German born Jew who later became a British soldier, claimed that his grandparents received exit visas thanks to Magda's intercession. This is also a story where they reported that Magda intervened with and helped him. We saw that she didn't help her own stepfather, being Jew. Yes, there maybe were some such individual cases like this with Felix Frank when she helped. Family tradition held that during World War One, when Magda was still a young refugee from Belgium, Franks, from this Jewish guy, Felix Frank, step grandparents had sheltered her. So that the theory that the real reason why she helped this guy, Felix Frank, because she knew him. Thus, although she later became the wife of Joseph Goebbels and had a Jewish stepfather herself, she might have helped him out of gratitude. That is possible. This story also says that on the eve of Kristallnacht in 1938, they received a warning phone call. So this family of Felix Franks also was warned, because in 1938 we had the Kristallnacht. The synagogues were burned all over Germany, and yes, also a lot of Jews were killed on the streets. There were riots and there were spontaneous killings also. And Magda Goebbels had also, there is reported that she telephoned to this family, like to save them. Declining health throughout her life, Magda suffered from heart weakness and poor health. By the end of the war, she was afflicted by severe depression also and trigeminal neuralgia. So a nerve problem, a nerve disorder causing excruciating facial pain that was difficult to treat, back then. The illness often confined her to bed and she required hospital care several times until August 1944 or 17. Yeah, she was already dead in the 70s. Yeah, and now we have it about Magda Goebbels' final days. Yeah, the final days. In late April 1945, as the Red Army entered Berlin and was already about 500 meters from the Führerbunker, from the center of Berlin, and surrounded the district of Tiergarten in Berlin. This is a district where there is a big park. Yes, and there near to where today Brandenburger Tor, Potsdamer Platz, this district was still in the hands of the Germans. Yes, but poorly defended. The Goebbels, the family moved into the Führerbunker beneath the Reich Chancellery garden. Magda wrote a farewell letter already to her son. Everybody knew that here everything will end. She wrote a letter to her son Harald Quandt. As I said, he served as a pilot in the Luftwaffe. And yes, he get also captured in North Africa by the Allies. There in this letter, she wrote him stating that after the collapse of National Socialism, life was no longer worth living. She declared that she and her 6 children would die faithful to the Führer even in death. This letter was also captured by the Allies because he was already there in North Africa in custody of the Allies, and they could intercept this letter. Joseph Goebbels confirmed in his addition to Hitler's political statement that the family would remain in Berlin and share his fate. So this was an official statement that he will not leave Berlin. Magda last saw Hitler and Eva Braun on April 30, 1945, just before their suicides. The next day, on May 1, Magda and Joseph Goebbels, with the help of SS doctors, first sedated their 6 children with morphine, then killed them using cyanide capsules because they knew that only hours later the Russian will come, because that was already settled an agreement that on May 2nd the Russian will seize the town. So May 1 was the last exit day. According to several witnesses, it was Magda herself who administered the poison. Weeks earlier, she had told friends, that also documented, that she could not allow her children to live on, as after their father's crime, only hatred and humiliation would await them. That was another reason. That was also another reason that she expressed also the feeling of guilt. So that's also a thing that she thought that it is impossible to live on, also for the children. Weeks earlier, and she rejected Albert Speer's and others' offers to evacuate the children. There were the possibility, declaring in the bunker better they should die than live in shame. That was her statement. After killing their children, Magda and Joseph Goebbels went up to the Chancellery garden where they committed suicide, likely with cyanide and a gunshot. Their bodies were doused with gasoline by SS aides and partially burned. On May 2nd, 1945, Soviet soldiers found their remains. The 6 children's bodies were discovered in the Führerbunker, lying in white nightgowns. The Goebbels family's remains were exhumed and reburied multiple times by the Soviets. Finally, in 1970, under KGB, their remains were exhumed once more, cremated, crushed, and their ashes scattered into the Biederitz River. That's a tributary river of the Elbe. Yeah, the aftermath, as we say, only Magda's son, Harald Quandt, survived. The oldest one, who was captured as a soldier. He had been captured in North Africa, as I said, as a soldier, and after the war, Harald Quandt, took over the management of the family's vast industrial empire. Traudl Junge, Hitler's youngest secretary, recalled in her memoirs that shortly before the end, Magda had visited a friend and confided that she said to this friend that she simply could not live with the guilt she felt. And this thing I said, that there was also a feeling of guilt because she was fully aware of all the Nazis, also the Holocaust. I think it was not a secret to them. Magda remained a convinced National Socialist to the end. She knew all that, but she was convinced that this system is the ideal one. She truly did not want to live in any other kind of society. Also, this she expressed because she was lucky. For her, the National Socialism was the ideal system and society. Yet she also knew that doing so, like living in this society, would violate and all shared moral norms. She was aware of that. Yeah, thank you very much.